Hi there, my name's Isaac. I just wanted to take this chance to introduce myself. I'm a cellist from the Pacific Northwest. I've been playing for about 15 years now, and I just finished my master's with Paul Katz at the New England Conservatory in Boston, and before that I did my undergraduate studies at the Eastman School of Music with David Ying in Rochester, New York. So I did start teaching about 10 years ago, but I've been doing the bulk of my teaching for the last 3 years. I've done both online and in-person teaching, and I've been really lucky to teach a very wide range of students, everyone from beginner 7-year-olds to adult students in their 50s or 60s who are looking to join a community orchestra. So I've been really lucky to work with a bunch of different kinds of people, each with different musical goals, and it's been an extremely gratifying part of being a musician. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about my approach to teaching, my teaching philosophy. Basically, my first and most important goal as a teacher is to help my students and equip them with the tools that they need to practice their very best, to have the highest quality practice sessions. So what does this mean? Obviously, this means being productive, being efficient, and actually making progress, as much progress as you can within the time that you have to practice. But it's also about making practice really rewarding and gratifying and being musically fulfilled, because ultimately that's why we do this in the first place, right? So that's my first most important goal. The next one, and this kind of ties in with practicing well, is being really well set up technically. So having good habits, having a really good foundation. Especially if the student is young, I'm going to be very picky about making sure all the habits are there. In lessons, I'm there to kind of nudge them and make sure that they're really focusing on and continuing to work on some of whatever technical adjustments there might be. In my experience, it's really important to do this as early as possible, because the older you get, the more time you spend playing the cello, it gets harder to fix habits later on. Although I will say I've had adult students who have come to me with really challenging habits, and I've been able to give them exercises that helped with those habits that they were wanting to change, even if their left hand was like really, really tight and it was making it really hard for them to play the cello at all. So don't lose hope. It is possible if you are later in the process, but I always encourage setting up those habits as early as possible so that you can spend more time making music and less time worrying about the notes. This brings me to kind of my final point of teaching, but it really should be the first point, because the first two don't really matter without this, and that's finding the meaning in the music that you're playing, finding a sense of expression as a musician and as a cellist. This isn't really possible without any kind of technique. As Janos Starker would say, it doesn't matter what wonderful ideas you have in your head. If you can't pull it out of the cello technically, it doesn't really matter. There is some truth to that, but the reason, the purpose why we do this in the first place, at least for me, is finding a sense of expression, of trying to communicate something. This is the most important thing, so I really try to push my students to find a deeper and deeper level of musicality in their playing. So it's just a little bit about me and my approach to teaching. In terms of the lesson details, the structure itself, for beginners and intermediate students, I tend to use the Suzuki system. I'm not a Suzuki method teacher, but I do use the books just as a baseline. It's a really good collection of repertoire that teaches, the fundamentals when you're in the beginning stages, and gives you a good set of pieces to work through that get progressively harder and harder. So I do tend to use that system. It's how I started. It's worked really, really well for both really young students and my adult students. But I'm also really encouraging my students to find pieces that they would feel really excited about playing, that they want to either work towards playing someday, or if they are at the appropriate level, we can start working on it right now. It's very important for me to accommodate those requests, especially when a student feels particularly passionate about a piece. So that's kind of just some details about the lesson structure itself. I hope this was helpful for you to get to know me and my teaching just a little bit. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.